want to thank everybody for joining me today. My name is Wesley Boudreaux, one of the financial advisors here with the Retirement Group. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the United Airlines benefits plans. So we'll talk about the pension plans, the 401k, also talk about a cash flow analysis, some different options of making sure you got everything set up accordingly for retirement. Now, before I get started, I want to remind everybody that the Retirement Group is not affiliated with, nor are we employees of United Airlines. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A box that you see on your screen. Those will come over to us anonymously, so your information is protected. We'll be sure to try and address those at the end of the webinar or follow up if we need to as well. Also, if you want to follow us on LinkedIn and get updated information on the plan changes and the packages and things like that, or information on future webinars, just go ahead and scan this QR code on the screen here. It'll bring you directly over to LinkedIn so that we can you can get that information from us as well. Now, a lot of you we've talked on and off, but for those of you who do not know who the Retirement Group is, again, we are an independent financial advisory firm that focuses on working with corporate employees and helping them transition into retirement. We've been doing this for about 30 years. We work with about 20 some odd companies, and United Airlines is one of the big ones we do a lot of work with. The purpose of us focusing just on some companies is allows us to have a deeper understanding of your benefits plans inside and out, so we can be assured to help you through that process when it comes time for retirement, whether it's in 10 days or 10 years. Unfortunately, a lot of times there are some nuances to these plans, and people tend to make mistakes, and it could cost you, thousands, if not tens of thousands, or even $100,000 or more sometimes in these transition processes. Now, at the end of the day, like I mentioned, we do provide a cash flow analysis. So if there's anything you take us up on, at least take us up on that. It's complimentary, and we can take a look at your situation and what your retirement goals are to make sure you're on the right path, or see if you need to make any tweaks or changes to your strategy, whether it be change your investments or whether it be work a little bit longer, or just so if you can retire sooner if you want to. A lot of people right now are going back and forth on the different package offers because of the slowdown, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. So if you want to review that, we can also run those side by side in the cash flow analysis as well. Now, at the end of the day, we got offices throughout the country. So if you need to sit down with somebody face to face, rest assured we can take care of that. But given the pandemic we're still in right now, we do provide webinar meetings, and phone calls and emails are all just as good as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about some of the different options as you transition into retirement. First and foremost, there's really three different choices, or different buckets, if you would, that you're going to generate some income off of. The first would be your Social Security, and depending upon your age, if you're married or not, there's multiple claiming strategies to focus on here. You can take it, generally speaking, as early as 62, or defer it as late as age 70. And each year you defer it, you're going to get a bump up in the amount that you're going to get paid on there. So if you have questions about this, let us know. We can run a detailed Social Security analysis to show you all the different claiming strategies, especially again if you're married, show you the break-even analysis based upon your longevity issues and things like that, to help you determine the best time to pick Social Security, whether it's early on at age 62, or for retirement age, or even later. The other two options we're going to talk about today are going to be the 401k plans and the pension plans. Now, the 401k plan is a defined contribution plan, in which case you make your contributions, and you also get the contributions from United Airlines, and that's going to grow over time based upon your investment selection. And then once you retire, you can start taking distributions from that, whether it's directly from the 401k or if you roll it over to an IRA. The pension is a defined benefit plan, and depending upon where you were hired initially, and when you were hired, and what type of job function you have, there are differences in this pension plan and the 401k plan. And we'll go through the pension plan shortly, but I want to remind everybody too, there's also a screen on here, the chat box. If you want to keep an eye on that, we will be putting some links into where to find more information on different items I'm going to talk about today as well, or if you'd like to schedule an appointment with us later. Now, when you go through the pensions, again, there's different options depending upon who you were originally with, whether you're a Continental Legacy, United Legacy, and there's different pension plans within there, also based upon your job function as well. So let's first go through the United A plan, which is what most of the Legacy United employees are going to be under. Now, what's going to happen here is this was a classic defined benefit plan, in which case was a formula base to determine what your income was going to be for the rest of your life. Now, however, unfortunately, that plan was terminated back in December 30th, 2004, and the PBGC had to take it over. So by them taking it over, it did make some changes to it, and there are some potential reductions, and some of you that may have had a higher pension amount, because there are different limits under the PBGC. And if you have questions on those limits, just give me a call. I can go through that chart with you in greater detail and show you what your specific choices are. Now, with the United plan, unfortunately, because the PBGC took it over, there's only an annuity option. So the only choice you are going to have is that pension as a single life annuity or a deviation of that, which we'll talk about in just a second. Now, if you are a United flight attendant, same situation, only difference is the plan survived a little bit longer. It wasn't until June 30th the next year that they canceled that or terminated it, and the PBGC took it over. So same situation, the only choice you're going to have there is going to be an annuity payment. So with those annuity payments, let's take a look at what those options are. The calculation, everything stems around your single life annuity or the life only payment to determine what you're going to get paid for the rest of your life. From there, if you want to add some additional benefits or other choices, you can do so. All those choices are going to actually bring down that monthly payment because there's a greater chance of the PBGC paying you out for a longer period of time. So if you want to make sure that at least you're getting something back out of the plan, you can add a period certain of 5, 10, or 15 years. And an example of this would be, let's say, God forbid something happened to you in the 10th year of retirement, and you had the 15-year period certain. Then for the next 5 years, your beneficiaries will still get some payments. So at least you're knowing you're getting something back out of it, even if you pass away earlier. Now, if you're married, you want to provide for your spouse, you can look at setting up a joint and survivor annuity option where you can give him or her 100%, 75%, or 50% continuation if you happen to pass away earlier. Now, again, this will all be lower than your single life annuity because they're paying on the course of 2 lives. And we can go through those different options and show you those choices in the cash flow analysis as well. Now, something that's actually unique to United that very few companies have is an option that's called the joint 50% with a pop-up option. So this is if, unfortunately, you were to pass, or excuse me, if unfortunately your beneficiary, your wife or husband, was to pass away before you did. So instead of being stuck with that lower income payment for the rest of your life, you can pop back up into a single life annuity. So that's a good feature as well to look at. But again, it's good to look at everything side by side and what things look like, not just now, but in 10, 20, 30 years down the road as well. Now, getting over to Continental, there's also 2 plans there. There's the CPRP and the CARP plan. And both of those, again, are going to be your classic defined benefit plan, in which case there's a calculation looking at your final average pay, your years of service, and a multiplier to determine what your single life annuity is going to be. Now, this plan also was frozen. The difference is it has not been taken over by the PBGC. So there's a little bit more flexibility. You actually have a lump sum option on here as well. So we take a look at the choices again, just as a United employees, you've got all the same choices, the life, the period certain, the joint options. But if we look at the top right of here, the other option you're going to have is actually going to be the lump sum option, in which case you can say, I don't want to get the payments over the course of my life or my family's life. I want to take the money now, and I think I can reinvest it or do better on my own. And then what they'll do is they'll take a look at interest rates to determine how much they need to give you in order for you to generate a similar income stream for the rest of your life. So let's take a look at how those interest rates are calculated. Excuse me, let me zoom in here just because this is a little bit busier slide. And so what's going to happen is whenever we look at things, the pension rates that are used are going to be the PPA, the Pension Protection Act segment rates. And they're going to only update those twice per year for the Continental plan. And so what happens is if we look at this chart here, the interest rates for February are going to dictate what the interest rates are going to be used for the second half of the year. The interest rates for August are going to be used to determine what the interest rates are for the first half of the following year. So looking at this chart, if we scroll down to the third line, right now we're in the first part of 2021. So those are the interest rates based upon August of last year. And if we look at those, the interest rates are 0.52%, 2.22%, and 3.03%. These are the lowest we've seen in the history of the company. And this is a result of the pandemic, where it's driven interest rates really low. Now, this is actually a positive thing for you because what it means is the lower the interest rates are, the higher the lump sum. If we look at these, the first segment correlates to the first 5 years of retirement. The second segment correlates to years 6 through 20. And the third segment is for years 21 and beyond. So for most individuals, the biggest factor is going to be that second segment. And if we look at that right now, that 2.22%, it will go back up to 2.54% if you were to wait and retire in the second half of 2021. So if you are on the verge of retirement, or you're trying to determine that, and you knew you were retiring in 2021, and it's a question of whether it's maybe May or June, or whether it's going to be July or August, we definitely need to review this, because that 30 basis point change means that your lump sum is probably going to drop by about 3% or so. Generally speaking, that change is going to be anywhere from about a 1% change equals about an 8 to a 12% change in your lump sum. So 1% equals about 10% usually. So let's say if you'd run your numbers and your lump sum was running at $300,000 for May or June, if you went in July, it may drop down to $290,000 or something like that. So it's really important to kind of keep an eye on that. Now, if you weren't retiring for another couple of years, then this may not be an issue to review. But if you do want to run this through our cash flow analysis and see the differences, we can definitely do that. But if you also take a look at that, if we go back to the normal yield and what the normal rates were, those changes could be more dramatic, and you could see anywhere from a 10 to 15% drop potentially over the course of the next coming years on your pension lump sum options as well. So again, keep in mind, this is only for the lump sum, does not affect the annuity at all. So let's kind of move into some of the 401k options that you have under the different plans. And again, we're going over these kind of high level because there's so many choices. The best way is to just give me a call or call the retirement group at 1-800-900-5867 to dig into your specific plans in more detail as well. So as far as the United Pilot plan, this is the more generous of the plans, in which case you can actually get contributions from the company up to about 16%. There's actually a 9% contribution on the B plan and a 7% on the C plan. And as far as your contributions, you can look at pre-tax or Roth contributions or after-tax contributions. But keep in mind, the pre-tax and the Roth are limited based upon IRS regulations of up to $19,500 for the year, plus another $6,500 if you happen to be over 50 years old. Now, if you max that out, you can actually do after-tax contributions where you don't get the deduction, but you still put contributions into the 401k plan, and your total combined contributions across the board are maxed out at $57,000 plus that $6,500 if you're over 50. And if you find yourself making after-tax contributions, it's very important to give us a call because there are definitely some beneficial backdoor Roth rollover options you can look at with that after-tax money, so that it will start to grow not just tax deferred, but grow tax-free, which is a much greater benefit to you down the road, either for yourself or your beneficiaries if you're looking to pass some of this on. Now, as far as the choices in there, there's really kind of 3 tiers that they set up for you and your choices, and going from easiest to more complex. And if we look at the tier 1, that's really just going to be your age-based strategy, in which case they take a look at what your age is or your date of birth, and look at the assumption you're going to retire around age 65, and they'll actually manage it for you with mutual funds. That will be, let's say if your retirement date or 65 is around 2030, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive right now. As you get closer and closer to 2030, it's going to become more and more conservative over time. So they'll shift more of the stocks to bonds. So you don't have to do any of this yourself. And this is the default option for you as well. So it's kind of the cruise control option. But again, you don't have any control over it. It is what it is in there. Now, if you want a little bit more control and you want to pick your own funds, but you don't want a whole bunch to choose from to further complicate it, there is tier 2, which is going to be some mutual funds and index fund options within the plan you can choose. And those range from the most conservative being the stable value fund, which is a good money market fund essentially. And then you've got some bond funds that are more conservative. You've got some equities, some international equities, and even some real asset funds that you can look at to diversify and make your own portfolio. Now, if you've done this and you have questions about reviewing it, or you need help on looking at this, again, give us a call. We can run through that with you. Then the third and final option, which is more complicated for a savvy DIY investor, is if you want the brokerage link option. This will open up the world of investments to you, where you've got the ability to invest in stocks, bonds, CDs, mutual funds, ETFs, all kinds of different options in there, which could be good or bad. If you're savvy enough, it gives you a lot more choices and more flexibility. If you're not, you want to be a little bit careful about it as well. But again, if you have questions on this, give us a call. We can help you through that process as well. Moving over to the non-pilots, and we look at the flight attendants and the ground employees, there is still contributions. They're not as generous, unfortunately. But if we look at the flight attendants, there's the ability to get up to a 6% contribution from the company. There's a general 3% contribution. Then there's also a 3% match if you're making contributions to your 401k. So if you're making the contributions, you can get up to 6% total contributions from the company. The vesting schedule, meaning when are those your funds, is not until 3 years out or you reach age 65. Now for ground employees, it's a little bit similar, a little bit less, but it's a flat 5%. And the vesting schedule is a little bit longer, needing to be there for 5 years or age 65 as well. Now, as far as once you do retire, there's a lot of choices on what you can do. We mentioned that original slide with the three pools of money: the Social Security, the 401k, and the pension. You can keep your 401k exactly where it is and take distributions as you need to from there to fund your retirement. Your pension, again, is going to depend upon who you were with, whether it's United or Continental. If it's United, you have no choice. It's going to be an income annuity. If it's Continental, you have the option of a lump sum. So if you want to, you can actually combine that lump sum and your 401k and roll it over to an IRA. Or if you want more choices and you just want to roll your 401k over, you can do that as well. This will allow you to have much more flexibility as far as choices of investments. And it's an individual retirement account, so it's not tied to the company anymore. And you can pick or choose what you want to do if you're a DIY, do-it-yourself investor. However, if you want to, employ the retirement group or another firm to, use their expertise to help you manage it, or just use it as a sounding board, this gives you a lot more flexibility as well on the investment strategies. Now, this whole transition, it's just simply a transfer. There's no tax ramifications of it because you're actually just going from one account to the next. You're not taking any money out to spend it. So again, this is something that I would say, a large chunk of people end up doing once they retire. They'll move over to an IRA either to get guidance and help that they need, or they just want more flexibility on their own management side. Now, at the end of the day, you can't make any of these decisions until you kind of run a detailed cash flow analysis to see where you stand. And right now, unfortunately, 3/4 of Americans do not have a written plan in place, and that's individuals over 50. It would take you about maybe 10 minutes on a phone call with us. If you got some of your data, we can just gather, the information on the pension, the 401k, and what your spending is, and we can put together a detailed cash flow analysis to show you what things look like, not just now, but in 10, 20, 30 years down the road as well. We can help you compare different retirement dates to see if it makes sense to work longer or retire earlier, take a package. We can go through all those different choices with you. So at least you can see financially what it looks like, and then you can judge for yourself emotionally whether you're ready to go or need to stay on longer as well. Now, at the end of the day, we'd obviously love to work with you and make you a client. We understand if you're working with somebody else, and that's great. We do recommend getting a second opinion. We even recommend our own clients do this every now and then just to keep us on our toes. But the biggest thing you need to understand is if you're working with an advisor, make sure they've got a deep understanding of the United Airlines benefits plans. I can't tell you how many times we've come across individuals who have been working with somebody and thought they knew things, but even their advisor made mistakes that cost them tens of thousands of dollars in the claiming strategies for the actual benefits plans because there's so many different options within there. And we didn't even get into the medical side of it today as well. But also make sure you understand their fee structure. If you're working with somebody, chances are there's a fee getting paid. So make sure you understand it and make sure you're getting what you're paying for. The retirement group, we are fiduciaries. We're transparent on everything. We are not a one-size-fits-all firm where everybody goes on the same cookie-cutter approach. Our role is to run through that cash flow analysis, determine what you're trying to achieve, then present you with choices in order to do so with as little risk as possible and go through those side by side. And you want to make sure you've got an investment management team and some back office support behind whoever you're working with. Myself, the other advisors here, we can't do everything. So we do rely a lot on the retirement group back office and also the back office of Schwab, who we clear through as well. And at the end of the day, like I said, you need to run that cash flow analysis. And you need to do so from a conservative standpoint. You don't want to be overly optimistic and make mistakes on it. And once you run that, you need to make sure you update that periodically, at least every year or so. Now, as far as getting in touch with us, if you want to look at these QR codes on the bottom, there's one where you can actually scan to go into our calendars and set up a meeting with myself or one of the other advisors. Or again, there's the LinkedIn QR code there that you can follow us on that page as well. But you can always give us a call at 1-800-900-5867. We'll be happy to answer your questions or run any of these reviews that we talked about. And then there's also, you can reach us at info@theretirementgroup.com. And again, I want to remind everybody that there is the Q&A box over there. We got one question in so far, but if you'd like to put any questions in there, feel free to do so, and I'll be able to tackle those in just a moment. But so far, the only question we have in there is you talked about rolling over my lump sum. Can I cash it out? So the answer to that is, again, first and foremost, if you're Continental Legacy, that's where you'd have the lump sum choice on there. And yes, you can cash out your lump sum. The issue is, how big is that lump sum? Because if you cash that out, it's going to count as a taxable event because you're taking that money to yourself versus the rollover I mentioned. So if you're cashing that out, it's going to count as income for that year. And depending upon your age and everything, there could be a 10% penalty. And then also it could drive you up into a higher tax bracket. So if you happen to have a small pension and it's a couple $1,000s or 10 or 20,000, then yeah, that might be a good choice. But if it's over $100,000, chances are you're going to want to roll that over to an IRA, and then from there take distributions as well. Now, there's also issues with I mentioned before, just in that question of the 10% penalty. So generally speaking, if you're taking withdrawals from an account prior to age 59.5, there's taxes plus a 10% penalty. There are ways to get around that in the IRA. And there's also what's called the age 55 rule in the 401k if you retire the year you turn 55 or later. So there's a lot of different tax planning strategies we can talk about as well, but most of this information, like I said, is going to be really good for you on a one-on-one basis by simply giving us a call at 1-800-900-5867. And again, we'll be happy to go through your personal situation. And like I said, the best thing to do is run one of those cash flow analysis reports. Especially if you're thinking about retiring somewhere within the next 3 years or so, so we can show you what the choices look like now. And if you have questions on the packages as well, just feel free to give us a call and go through that also. I want to thank everybody for taking some time out of their day to join us going over this. And I wish everybody luck in the jobs, and I hope everybody stays safe.